You don't have to do New Year's resolutions. You don't have to bring in loads of changes now just because it's January and everybody else seems to be doing it. I think this time of year anyway, we naturally want to like curl up and be a bit more quiet and indoors and on our own. And I think when you create that space to listen to yourself, you can figure out what truly needs to change instead of doing all the things that you think you should be doing.
Welcome to Transform Your Menopause with Essex Menopause Coach, the go-to podcast for anyone struggling from peri to post-menopause. If you're feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, or anxious, this is the place for you. Hosted by me, Julie, an award-winning coach who's been in your shoes, this podcast offers real understanding and practical help. I'll tackle menopause head-on with clear, no-nonsense guidance that makes a real difference. So whether you need support, tips, or just a friendly voice, I'm here to help you navigate menopause and rediscover your best self.
Hello, and welcome to my very first episode of 2025. So it's Sunday morning, it's cold, it's crisp, but the sun is shining and it's beautiful outside. So I had actually intended to record this episode back in 2024, but life had other plans, and that's kind of what this episode's about, really. Having to tune in and listen to what our body is telling us. And also, this weekend is the weekend where most people would have already given up on the resolutions that they made for the new year. I'm not one for resolutions. I don't really believe in resolutions, and it's kind of a bit of what this episode's about as well. So if you have found it difficult sticking to your goals, if you have felt anxiety, resistance, then this episode's all for you, really. So end of 2024, it was incredibly busy. And like a lot of people, I think I found myself running on empty. We also were lucky enough to go away to Egypt for Christmas this year. So I had a complete break from social media, from all of work. And I planned to, as soon as we came back, get some posts scheduled on social media to record the first episode of the podcast for this year. But I found myself feeling really anxious, really resistant to doing it. So, I am in a fortunate position. I was able to give myself another week off from that until I felt ready to ease myself back into the regular routine of things. I think this really kind of sits with everybody else and their resolutions and that feeling that you should be doing something just because everybody else is. So a little bit about that resistance. So quite often, if you listen to my breathwork episodes or you come along to any of my sessions or you work with me, we'll be talking about trying to be in that rest and digest state more often and using different tools to get us like away from that sympathetic, that stress response back into that kind of rest and digest. But there is another flip side of this that I'd like you to consider. So if you're feeling that resistance, that anxiety, maybe what we should be doing is using that as an opportunity to pause and listen to what it is that your body's actually saying to you. So your body's actually saying, something isn't right here. Something needs to change. It's an opportunity for you to really pause and reflect and maybe dig a little bit deeper into what's actually going on in your life at that moment. Using that as your opportunity really to figure out what it is in your life that needs to change. So that anxiety for me made me realise that I wasn't actually ready to jump back into that fast-paced social media. And it is incredibly intense. So that was pushing me into that sympathetic state, that fight or flight, being always on. I knew I had to not ignore that feeling. So for me, that what I've done is to reflect on that and realise that maybe the way I use social media for my work needs to change. Maybe I need to set time limits for how long I spend on there, making sure that maybe I don't get sucked into the scroll, or maybe that I post less frequently. But like many things, there's a work in progress and you need to find out what that thing is and how to make that thing work for you. Now, there's lots of things that we can do to calm the nervous system, and you'll quite often hear me talking of things like going for a walk in nature, incorporating breath work, laughter, just doing things you love, being creative, being with your friends, and that could be really helpful. But earlier this week, I've seen Dr. Rangan Chatterjee on a few programs talking about his new book. But in particular, there was something that really kind of struck a chord with me that he was talking about, and that was solitude. And he described solitude as being like that powerful way of creating that mental space. And then that made me think about when I was running. So when I used to do a lot of running, if I had a problem that I was trying to solve, or there was something that was playing on my mind, quite often when I wasn't thinking about that thing, when I was just doing that, that routine run, the ideas, the solutions would all just come flooding back to me, give me like a launch pad to move forward. And that's not surprising, really, because that bilateral movement joins up the hemispheres of our brain, enables us to get that clarity, to think more clearly. So that's one way that you can actually help to find that mental space, that clarity, to help you maybe find what your sticking point is at the moment. So that for you, that doesn't need to mean going for a run, like I was saying. There's lots of different ways that you can embrace that solitude and create that space. So just getting up before everyone else in the morning, having that cup of tea, looking out into your garden, without switching your phone on immediately. Just maybe 20 minutes to yourself just to create that little bit of mental space and just noticing maybe what comes to you. Going for a walk and without any distractions. So maybe not listening to that podcast, not having that music on, and just allowing the things to come to you with the movement, rhythm of your footsteps, or just having like a notebook to hand so you can just write down any thoughts or inspiration that comes to you. Those answers I find tend to come to you when you're really not thinking about them. Breathwork. So breathwork I've found since I've started doing that 2 years ago has been a wonderful way to help when life feels like it's getting a bit overwhelming, a bit too complicated, or if you're feeling a bit burnt out, just to firstly create space to yourself, whether that be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever you've got time for in your life. But focusing on the breathing to allow you to drop your heart rate, to come away from that stress response into that nice rest and digest space where you're relaxed, that your body can calm down into this nice calm place where you can relax. And I've got loads of different sessions on the podcast that you can test out um, to see how they make you feel, because I think it's individual to each of us that you find a way of practicing breath work that works for you. But I think the biggest tip that I can give you in this actual episode is just to let your belly go. I think for a lot of us women that we are so guilty of holding in and sucking in our bellies for our whole lives, whether that be to fit into that pair of jeans or to fit a certain social beauty standard. So stop, let your belly go. Your breath will naturally come away from being all up here in your chest, which your body reads as being stressed, down to letting your body know that you are safe, that you're calm, you're relaxed. So I think practice, put your hand on your belly, just practice letting it go. And then go and try out one of the breathwork episodes and see how that makes you feel. So coming back full circle to where we were in the beginning, I think the main thing I want you to know is there's no need to rush. You don't have to do New Year's resolutions. You don't have to bring in loads of changes now just because it's January and everybody else seems to be doing it. I think this time of year anyway, we naturally want to curl up and be a bit more quiet and indoors and on our own. So just maybe use it as a time to pause and reflect and see what it is you actually want to do, what your body's telling you you need to do. And I think when you create that space to listen to yourself, whether that be from movement, whether from solitude, you can figure out what truly needs to change instead of doing all the things that you think you should be doing. And once you've done all of that work and you feel like you're ready to implement a change, I do have the perfect episode lined up for you. It's from called From Going From Overwhelm to Action. So that will enable you to take the things that you've decided to do and create and shape your own plan to put them into place. So they'll really launch you into success for 2025. Also, like I said, there's lots of other breathwork episodes on the podcast, so I'll link all of those in the description for you to go and check them out. A really nice short little episode for you today to ease you in. Thank you so much for joining me again and for supporting the podcast. I think it's February or March, it'll be a year that this has been running, and the support that you've given me has been wonderful. If you found this episode useful, don't forget to subscribe or leave a review or share it with anyone else you know, because it does enable me to reach more listeners. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can reach me on social media, either Facebook or Instagram, as Essex Menopause Coach. Or, of course, you can always visit my website for more resources, which is essexmenopausecoach.com. So here's to starting 2025 in a way that works for you, hopefully feeling nice and calm and relaxed and ready to reset. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.